Whenever you're ready. Yep.
Welcome to this December 18th, 2024 Design Review Commission. Mr. Secretary, can we please call the roll?
Thank you. Commissioner Basting.
Here.
Commissioner Riley.
Here.
Vice Chair Newsom.
Here.
Chair Case is on vacation, and she has let the city know well in advance of her absence tonight. So we have three. We have a quorum.
Excellent. So let's move on now to the consent calendar. Any item can be placed in the consent calendar by the Commission Secretary when it's expected to be routinely approved without discussion or debate. Do we have any such thing?
We have no recommendations for consent calendar tonight.
Okay, moving right along. Public communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comment on items not on the agenda Under the Brown Act, the commission cannot act on items raised during the public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. Request clarification, refer an item to staff. Do we have any outstanding public communications? Anybody here want to talk about anything not on the agenda?
Seeing none.
None? Okay. So we're going to move now on to the public hearing and study sessions. But before we do that, I have to ask, has anybody had any ex parte communications with applicants for these
On any of the items.
items? No? Excellent. Okay. With that said, let's move on to our first item, which is the master sign program.
And I'd like to just make a note before we start into item 4, and that we have 2 items tonight. The first item is a master sign program of which the Design Review Commission has authority to make a decision. So the decision-making authority is within the Design Review Commission's hands for anything to do with signs, including the master sign program tonight. The second item, the single-family development with the subdivision, is for recommendation only, so we'll be gathering comments and overall recommendations for the Planning Commission to consider at a later date.
And so the Planning Commission is actually the decision-making body in that instance, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the 2700 Ignacio Valley Master Sign Program, and it looks like we have a staff presentation, so proceed.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Design Review Commission. My name is Stephen Cook, and I'm an assistant planner with the Community Development Department. And before you this evening is a proposal for a new master sign program located at 2700 Ignacio Valley Road. The project is located within the Shadelands Business Park on a 5.89 acre parcel. It includes an existing 3-story, 106,463 square foot medical office building that was constructed in 1984. The site is along the southwest corner of the intersection of Ignacio Valley Road and North Viamonte. Surrounding the site, you'll find medical office buildings to the north, Shadelands Ranch Museum to the west, the Orchids Shopping Center to the east, and single-family homes to the south. On October 16th of this year, the Sign Subcommittee held a publicly noticed meeting to review the proposed master sign program. The initial proposal included 3 sign exceptions to the sign ordinance, as well as several sign types. The Sign Subcommittee was ultimately supportive of the master sign program, but provided feedback to address a few areas of concern. In response to that feedback, the applicant revised the MSP to address these concerns. The amendments include the elimination of skyline signs, the elimination of one tenant wall sign, and a reduction in the overall size and the total sign area for all sign types. Notably, an additional tenant wall sign was added to the master sign program, and a detailed response document outlining all the revisions made to the master sign program is included as attachment 3 on the staff report. At this time, I'll provide an overview of the amended master sign program. So the proposed MSP includes detailed signage standards that outline areas such as design, placement, and illumination methods. The program proposes a total of 3 tenant wall signs and 2 freestanding signs. Additionally, the MSP requests 2 exceptions to the sign ordinance, one to increase the allowable sign area for both freestanding signs, and another to increase the overall allowable aggregate sign area for the site itself. Beginning with the freestanding signs, the site currently has 2 freestanding signs, but these will be replaced and relocated to opposite drive aisles, as indicated by sign types A1 and A2 in red. Each of the 2 proposed freestanding signs will have a sign area of 32 square feet, which exceeds the 25 square feet currently allowed. The height of each sign, measured from grade, will be 7.5 feet. While the signs are not illuminated, LED ground lighting will be provided to enhance visibility. The sign bodies feature an aluminum skin with a black satin finish, while the tenant panels will have an aluminum skin with a brushed silver metallic finish. On the slide, you could see a rendering of the proposed freestanding sign, as well as a site plan demonstrating their proposed locations on the property. The next sign types are tenant wall signs C2 and C3, each with a sign area of 30 square feet featuring halo lighting. The backer panels fabricated aluminum and are required to match the color of the wall behind it. Tenants are permitted to use their own logos, fonts, and brand colors. It's important to note that while the sign subcommittee was supportive of this sign type, they recommended limiting the dimensions to 10 by 30 feet. The applicant has made these adjustments accordingly, and for your reference, a rendering of the wall sign, along with the site plan demonstrating its proposed location on the building, marked in green, is provided. The last sign type is tenant wall sign B1, with a sign area of 88 square feet and featuring halo lighting. The backer panels fabricated aluminum and are required to match the color of the wall behind it. Tenants are permitted to use their own logos, fonts, and brand colors. And it's important to note that the inclusion of this sign type was a direct response to the sign subcommittee recommending eliminating skyline signs on the upper band, as well as tenant wall signs, as one tenant wall sign in the lower band. The applicant has proposed the larger tenant wall sign to be placed in the middle band with a maximum height of 23.5 feet, which allows this sign type to not be considered a skyline sign and to be more appropriately positioned. And for your reference, a rendering of the wall sign, along with the site plan demonstrating its proposed location on the building, marked in blue, is provided. And to summarize the requests, the proposals for a new master sign program that seeks 2 exceptions to the sign ordinance. The first exception is to increase the allowable sign area for both freestanding signs. While 25 square feet is permitted, the applicant is proposing 32 feet per each sign. And the second exception is to increase the overall aggregate sign area. The site is currently allowed 128 square feet, but the total aggregate for the signs would be 212 square feet. The project is exempt from CEQA per section 15301 of the CEQA guidelines under Class 1 existing facilities. Staff recommends the Design Review Commission move to determine that the project is exempt from CEQA under section 15301 existing facilities and adopt the draft resolution approving a new master sign program for 2700 Ignacio Valley Road, subject to the conditions of approval contained therein. And that concludes the presentation for tonight. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also present this evening and could address any questions you have as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments or any questions first? No questions? No questions? Okay.
Questions of staff?
Questions of staff? No? Okay. Is there a presentation from the applicant? Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I do not.
Okay. All right, good. So we're gonna open the public hearing now. So do we have any public comments related to this? Seeing none, then I think we can move on to any commissioner comments. So do you folks have any comments about the application?
The only thing that I am curious about is the sign that was a skyline sign and then moved to the middle area. What direction does that face in, and is it illuminated?
I believe it's facing Viamonte, which would be the Orchards Shopping Center. And it is, I believe, staff said it was halo lit.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Yeah, so it's demonstrated as B1, so tenant identification sign B1. It's facing the corner of Ignacio Valley and North Viamonte in the middle band.
Okay, so it's facing towards sort of the commercial area.
That's correct.
That
It'll
is-
be
okay.
visible too from both streets.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Well, I'll just make my comments. So I am, of course, on the sign subcommittee, and I was just pleased to see that you addressed the comments, so thank you for that. And that's all I have, so I think we could probably make a motion here. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Great.
So I move to determine that the project is exempt from CEQA and that we adopt a resolution approving the new master sign program for 2700 Ignacio Valley Road.
Second?
I'll second that.
Can we take a vote then?
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Basting,
Yes.
Commissioner Riley,
Yes.
Vice Chair Newsom,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to the next thing. Next thing on the agenda is item 4B presumably, which is the Haven SRF development. So does staff have a presentation? Yes. Proceed. And I'm just going to let you guys know in advance, if you're going to make comments about this, please make sure you fill out a yellow speaker card and turn it in.
Where do we turn it in?
Right up here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a note, you can turn those in when you come on up. You don't have to do it right now.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gerardo Victoria with the Community Development Department. Tonight, we're here for a study session to review the Haven Single Family Development at 1948 3rd Avenue. Project ID is Y24051. Some site context. The property is located at 1948 3rd Avenue. It's right here. This is 3rd Avenue. To the west of 3rd Avenue is Larkey, right here. The general plan designation for the site is single-family medium. The residential zoning is residential 8. And the site is surrounded by other single-family homes, as you see down here in the map area. The project description is to demo the existing single-family residence and the accessory structures on the lot. It is to construct a 6-lot subdivision, as you see here, with a private street. It is to provide a 5-foot land dedication consistent with the city future street setback standards along 3rd Avenue here, and to provide 6 two-story single-family homes, one of which will be an affordable unit. It does have a density bonus component with 13 development standard waivers. It is proposing new landscaping. It is proposing the removal of 19 trees, 3 of which are highly protected in Walnut Creek. They are proposing new fencing and retaining walls, and it is being reviewed under the SB 330 project. Tonight, the DRC is tasked with providing input on the design components of the project, which include the vesting tentative map, the density bonus component, which includes the waivers, the design review, which includes the site layout, the architecture, the landscaping, the colors and the materials, the tree removals, and the tree drip line encroachment permits. The project will then go on to Planning Commission for consideration at a date yet to be determined. As you can see here, the existing site plan. This is the existing single-family home that will be demoed. This is the accessory structure of the garage. There's another dwelling unit in the back, and there is an existing small shed in this area. The proposed site plan includes 6 new lots. As you can see here, the first 3 are not facing 3rd Avenue, but the first one faces 3rd Avenue, and then the 3 are behind in the rear of the property. This is the private street. The lots range from 2,660 square feet to the biggest, which is 4,060 square feet, right here, lot number 3. The base density of the property is a maximum 5 units, as you can see here at the top. The applicant is providing 1 affordable unit, and so they get an increase in density, which results in the increase of the 6-unit single-family residences. The density bonus part of the project allows relief from standards that would physically preclude feasibility of the housing development. The applicant is requesting 13 waivers. The city is required to waive such standards unless it makes specific findings that any such proposal would have a specific adverse impact upon the health, safety, or the physical environment. These are the 13 requested waivers. Just to go over a few, the minimum required lot size in the residential 8 zone is 8,000 square feet. They are proposing a minimum of 2,600 square feet. The minimum front yard setback in the residential 8 zone is 20 feet. They are proposing 4 feet. The minimum right-of-way width is 38 feet. They are proposing 25 feet. And the minimum road width is 28 feet, and they are proposing 20 feet. The first plan is the farmhouse style home. It is a comp shingle gable roof, as you see here. It has a board and batten gray siding. It has white stucco finish with a cream stone veneer finish. It has a metal gable roof at the entrance right here with a shed roof in the rear, as you can see right here. Plan 2 of the farmhouse style has another comp shingle gable roof, has a smooth white board and batten siding right here, has a clean brick veneer finish. It does have a pop-out window right here on the right elevation, and this also has a shed roof in the rear down here. Excuse me. The other style home is the Bay Area style. This is their Plan 1. It has a comp shingle gable roof, has a blue wood paneling. It has a smooth white stucco finish with a comp shingle gable roof at the entrance and a shed roof in the rear. Plan 2 of the Bay Area style home is a comp shingle gable roof, a maroon lap siding, a white smooth coat stucco. It also has a pop-out window on the right elevation. And as proposed, the project does comply with the city's objective design standards. So the packet before you tonight shows the planting of 7 new trees and new landscaping with drought-tolerant plantings and shrubs along 3rd Avenue here and along the front of all 6 lots. It has 3 bioretention areas, one right here, one right here, and then the other one right here. They are proposing 7 new trees. You see them right here. So the ones in gray, they are keeping. The applicant has resubmitted after this packet went out, so they are now proposing just 5 new trees. The ones in gold have been removed from their new submittal. So there is a total of 28 trees on the site. They are proposing to remove 19 trees, which are all outlined in red. The ones with the stars are highly protected trees, which is in Walnut Creek, the Valley Oak, the Coast Live Oak, and the California Black Walnut. 9 trees will remain on the site, and they're outlined in green. The PowerPoint wasn't able to capture. There's a couple over here, so I apologize for that. Excuse me. So staff anticipates to use the categorical infill exemption 15332. The project is consistent with the general plan designation and the zoning designation. The proposed development does occur within the city limits and is no more than 5 acres large. The project site has no value as a habitat for the endangered, rare, or threatened species. The approval of the project would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality, and the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. So just to review, excuse me. Just to review the summary of requests before you tonight, is to comment on the following topics for consideration by the Design Review Commission, which includes the vesting tentative map, the density bonus component of the project, the design review component of the project, which includes the site layout, the architecture, the landscaping, the colors and materials, tree removal permits, and the tree drip line encroachment permits. Staff is available for questions. Just one quick thing. I was given additional comments by the public. I will pass those out as soon as I sit down. The applicant is here, is available for questions. They might have a presentation. Haven? Oh, the PDF? I have it. Can you go off mine?
Is it included in yours?
No.
I'll just say a few
Okay.
things if that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on a sec. So first, do we have any questions for staff?
I don't have any questions for staff. I do have questions for the,
I have no questions for staff.
Same for me. Nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, now I guess we can move on to the applicant presentation, right? We're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Oh, wait, it's not a public hearing. This is not a public hearing, again. That was a mistake. This is advisory only. Go ahead, introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, Honorable Commission. My name is Siavash Moazami. I go by Sia. I'm with Haven Development. Sorry, my voice is a little raspy, just getting over a cold. Wanted to thank everyone here this evening, Gerardo, for doing a fantastic job presenting our project, and some of our neighbors and residents of Walnut Creek. Hope you liked what you saw, and we're branding this project as Magnolia Village. And I think I I think Gerardo did a fantastic job describing the project. I maybe just want to touch on a couple of things. And the first is, the community benefits as opposed to the existing conditions. Currently along our frontage, there's no sidewalk. The driveway to the existing residence and the cottage in the back is in pretty poor condition. So we are building sidewalk along our frontage. We're putting in a park, right, in addition to the bioretention areas. That'll be a little, neighborhood park for the 6 future homeowners. And we're adding 6 new guest parking spaces. And so I guess in addition to, the waivers that density bonus law affords you, I think we're going above and beyond what's required under density bonus law in terms of parking. So I think that's really it. I'm here to answer any questions. I've got here with me this evening Doug Cummins of Dolan Architectural Group, Annika Carpenter with Ripley Design Group, and Justin Joseph, CBG, our civil engineer. So if you have any technical questions, architectural, landscape type questions, we're here to answer them. The one thing that I think was missed, and I have it in the PDF that I sent it to Gerardo, is we actually made the architecture a little bit more homey and traditional. We changed the colors up a bit. And so what you saw and what was presented was a mirror of the Enclave, which is our project right down the street that has been completed at 2670 Walnut. So we thought because of this Larkey Park neighborhood and some of the surrounding architecture, we would soften things up and go with a more traditional palette in terms of colors and materials. So fortunately, I don't have a zip drive with me to share that with you, but if anyone's got Wi-Fi, or Gerardo does, or we could probably pull it up. Thank you.
You mean the one that you sent me, or the
Yeah, it was the
PDF?
yeah, the PDF.
It'd be great to see the colors.
I actually have it on my laptop, so I could pull it up and
Okay. Do you
hand it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you load it to you?
Let's see, is that Mac compatible? No, it
should
doesn't
be,
take
no?
USB. I could just pull it up
Okay.
and share it. If I email it to you, will you be able to get it right now?
Can't get it.
Okay.
Are you sure you can't?
Yeah, I don't have a USB.
No, you don't have a USB. What about this?
Is that also a USB?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Should we just pass it around?
That's-
Show them the colors?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You could just pass the computer around. That's okay.
Thanks for that. I mean, I think, go ahead. I mean,
Start
yeah, that's fine. We could just kind of look at it as maybe as we ask.
It's really just
Yeah.
changing the colors. None of the materials change. Yeah. Oh, Windows, everything's the same.
Good, thanks. So now we're going to open up for applicant questions. Who wants to start? Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
So my questions are really around the landscaping,
Okay.
and I have a handful of them. First, I wanted to know, and this is sort of a larger question, is visually what you were hoping to achieve with the landscaping? Was there a feeling or a look that you were going for with this plant palette, or what drove it?
Yeah, I think I'll defer to our landscape architect. Will put it much more elegantly
Okay.
than I can, so.
Okay. While she's coming up, my next question maybe goes to you, is how will the landscaping be maintained once all the houses are sold?
So there's going to be an HOA, and the
Okay.
HOA will maintain all the front yards and all the common areas and the private street. So
Okay.
anything that's in front of the house will be maintained by the HOA, and the rear yards will be maintained by the homeowner.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Annika Carpenter with Ripley Design Group. Our palette, we usually like to use various foliage colors and textures and create kind of a tapestry of plant material that will provide interest year-round. Even when they're not flowering, they'll have color variation within their foliage. And we try to use plant material that requires less maintenance and less trimming. I don't know if there's any other.
Well, I guess the question and then the next question I have is why the choice of these trees?
Oh, so the client would like to reinforce the idea of Magnolia Village. So magnolias were introduced as trees into the project.
Okay. And then the purpose of the turf in the plan, there's 2 areas where there's turf. Can you just talk me through like why you're putting in turf?
We're trying to create at least some little open space that families could use or kids could use without, providing them some. They have limited backyard space, which probably won't allow a turf area. So we decided to try to introduce it into the common space.
Okay. And then my last question is why did the number of trees go down? That we
Oh,
just
well,
found out?
we can actually recover one of the trees because we can pull the fence back on lot 3 to recover the tree that's the yellow smaller circle.
Uh-huh.
That large circle, actually, the larger yellow circle is actually, you can see just up to the left corner of that big circle is a small tree on the plan. The bioretention area became larger and didn't allow us to put any more trees right there in that spot. We're very limited on, we've got a big easement running through that's preventing us from planting any trees. Then we have these 3 bioretention areas that are limiting us in planting any trees. And then, so we tried to plant them where we could. So it's just a lot of utilities preventing us from doing this. Yeah.
What is flowing into the bioretention areas? Is it simply from the ground plane or is it also from the roofs?
It's from the roofs and the ground plane.
Okay, so everything is going into those bioretention
I believe so.
areas.
Yeah, correct.
Great. All right, thank you.
Oh, sure,
Those are my
thanks.
questions.
Thank you. My question is, was there any effort made to retain any of the large heritage trees and the oaks in a site plan?
Yeah, I think Annika can also answer that, but we always try to retain any trees that we can. And unless, the trees in an area where it physically can't be be there because if it's a driveway or close to a foundation or such, we have to remove those trees. But we make every effort to retain heritage trees if and when possible.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I understand your desire to name, to have the trees match the project name, but was there consideration of more natives?
Or native trees? Well, that's a great question. I think because of the name of the project, we thought and we'd like to include magnolias. But what do you have in mind?
We can talk about that at a later part of the, or now?
If you specifically have a question, yes, but
Yes,
if
now's
if
about a
for- if
question.
you,
Well,
if
we can
if it's for,
discuss that at a
yeah,
later
if it's for
date.
discussion, save it for then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, now it's up to me. So, I mean, let's go back to the trees to be removed. Could you go back to that sheet? Okay, so I think, just confirming this, because this came up as a comment from the community. I think these trees are, in fact, on the property. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then, this is a question for somebody. So, just restating, because this was another comment. What is the requirement here that you have 2 covered spaces per unit only? Is that what the requirement is?
Correct.
Okay. So you have 5, 6 stalls there that are above and beyond what's required? Yes? Okay. Let's talk about fence lines. So, and mostly about the trash. This is just something that comes up with these places, and it's a common question that neighbors have is, let's go through the sequence of how trash is done. It says that the trash is going to be stored in the garage, but if there's no other place for people to park, they're going to park in the garage, and they're going to put the trash on the street. So is there a way that the trash could be put behind the fence line, possibly?
Doug, do you want to jump up here?
Hi, I'm Doug Cummins with Dahlin Group Architecture and Planning. So for the trash, we actually extended the garage itself, so we have a little bit extra storage, 27 square feet for 3 bins in the garage, so there is designated space for those bins. And then on the sides, we do have some side yards where if someone happened to use that space, then they can go on the side yard. And a lot of times that happens with the HOA as well, that they'll handle bins have to be in the garage, and they can regulate that as well. But we have designated space shown in the plans for the trash bins. You're welcome.
While you're up, let me ask a couple more
Happy
here.
to.
Talking about the materials, so I think they did a nice explanation. I had questions about the color, so the color is resolved. I think let's talk about like the demarcation. So when we talk about the wood trim around the windows, what exactly is that?
So it's a hardy trim that goes around the windows, so it requires less maintenance. And then also with the installation of the siding and everything, it's less maintenance for the homeowner as well, because they'll have this piece of trim that'll extend past that siding to give an extra layer of detail, an extra shadow and things like that, rather than having just the siding come against the window. So it adds a little extra bit of detail there around all sides.
How deep is it?
Usually 2 by 4 inches, so
2 by
2.5
4?
by 3.5 inches.
Okay. And is that the same for the banding between the stucco and the board and bat?
So that's a little bit larger, just to give a scale difference between the stucco and the board and bat or siding that's above that. So we should do a little bit larger piece, maybe a 2 by 8, and then a 2x4 or 2x3 on top of that to give another little extra detail around there. And that wraps around, most of the house where that happens. So we're not just designating that to the front elevation. We're doing full four-sided architecture.
Okay, good. And what else? So then I would assume then that is the board and bat, is that also hardy plank or?
That is also hardy as well, yeah.
And
So very, very low maintenance for the homeowners.
so everything is hardy and stucco and then the stone veneer?
Correct.
Okay. And, one common thing that we have is like, okay, so like if you look in this image at the upper left-hand, like the rendering you have there, so the finish is actually wrap, right? So like that, where that gray element is there, these finishes like that bay that pops out, that finish actually wraps, so you can actually read it like a bay. It's not, doesn't try to be plaster on the side, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everything ends to an inside corner, so it gives the real appearance of stone, or gives the real appearance of this, rather than just, we call lick and stick. That's just, on a face. It'll actually wrap and die where it really should, where it architecturally makes sense and would traditionally be used for that style of architecture.
Okay, good. So let's go, I think this is, I don't know who this question's for, but let's go to the subdivision map or whatever that plan is. A landscape plan would be great if you want to do that. It's not really a landscape question, but it's really a question about setbacks. I want to see where the other houses are. No, keep going. Something that shows, I can't say keep going back till we see the adjacent houses. Sorry. Well, I mean, I guess is that it? Or what? I mean, there was one that had the adjacent houses. Yeah. I mean, we'll work with that. Okay, so I mean, I guess the question is because the question of setbacks comes up. I mean, obviously there's density bonuses and we have to allow those, but just from the common sense department, I mean, I noticed that on the right-hand side of the property, there's a bioswale development, and then there's lawns, and the price of that is that the basically these houses, or the house in the back left corners, is right up against that 6-unit building, right there. So, I mean, let's go to the landscape plan. So since we don't have a plan that shows that, let's go to the landscape plan. And here's just my general question. Yeah, there it is, I think. Okay. Isn't there like a rendered landscape plan? Okay, all right, okay. So click on that. Let's get it a little bigger so we can see it. All right. Okay, so we have the unit that's in the upper right-hand corner that's 3.5 feet off the property line, or 3.5, and it's right up against. There's probably 5 feet away from a 6-unit building, and then on the bottom, I know that's the low side of the property, and I know there's a bioswale there, but what is the value of that turf? I mean, couldn't those 3 units be pulled down to provide a little more space?
There's actually an easement there. It's a public utility easement for sewer and storm drains, so we can't build anything over that area. And we actually, one of the things that I didn't mention, it was one of the slides, was we did do neighborhood outreach. I've either myself or a Haven representative has spoken to every adjacent homeowner or property owner that touches us. shares a property line, and we did what we could to shift things around, but unfortunately, we just can't move that lot number 4. It's 3.5 feet from the PL, but the neighbor to the west of us also has a home that's maybe 6 feet from property line. So, you know, we did what we could in terms of movement, but I think the best we could do is probably move it east another 6 inches, but that's
Well, that's-
outside of losing a unit, and we'd be more than happy to forego our affordable unit, but because of the economic loss, but I don't think that does anyone any good either, so.
No. So maybe, because this issue, I know this is an issue that's coming up, and it's going to come up in the public comments. So can we look on that side of the building? Can we look at what the windows do on that side of the building? Let's look at which unit it is and figure out whether there's windows that actually face the other
Yeah,
building.
so the Schneiders who live to the north of us, we've met with them and we talked about potentially assisting them with screening to you know, give them some privacy.
Okay.
And with Mr. Collins to the west of us, we talked about, you know, working with him as
Okay.
well. So what we can't do is go pay for landscaping on other people's properties, but what we've offered to do is make our consultants and our contractors available to all of our adjacent homeowners and let them put in things that they want at our cost, and we, Haven Development, would commit our time and effort to making that come to fruition. So in terms of, you know, unfortunately, all these homes have bedrooms on the second floor, so we can't just omit a bedroom on a second floor.
Yeah.
And window placement kind of is what it is. So we looked at the plans. Our architect can speak to that, but fortunately, we can't move windows because of the location of bedroom.
Okay. I mean, but like you mentioned, maybe doing some screening off property. Is that something that you'd be amenable to having as a condition of approval?
We are not willing to pay for that, but we can make a condition that will make, in other cities and other similar situations where we've done density bonus projects, we have committed to use our commercially reasonable efforts to work with the neighbors to give access to our landscape architect and to the contractors that will be installing the landscaping. And to the extent that it's economically viable and we can do things, we will do them, but we can't commit to planting, you know, trees that may put the project in an economically unviable position.
Okay. All right.
So it's like, we'll
I-
do our best. And
I know. I just trying to get ready for public comments
right,
here.
no, I understand that. And I've basically, you know, I've
Yeah.
communicated that to all the neighbors. We'll
Okay.
work with them, and they have, I mean, you can add a condition that will use commercially reasonable best efforts to assist, but it can't have economic.
But not pay for.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So that are there any other questions for the applicant? No? Okay, so now we're going to move on to public comment.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Everybody who's turned in a speaker card has 2 minutes to talk. All right, so let's go ahead.
A point of clarification, because you had asked.
Sure.
Lot 4, this one,
Uh-huh.
is proposed to either be a Plan 1 or a Plan 2. That's the only thing the plan set says, so
So which elevation would be
this is
facing
Plan
that?
2, this one, right here.
What's the side elevation that would be facing that off-site? Is it this one or this one?
It's this.
Okay.
This is the front facing that new private street, and then this is the one that's facing that property.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you look at the plan, right, so can you go back one to the plan?
The site plan? Yes.
Or the floor plan, go back to the floor plan. I mean, that's okay. It's okay. I mean, we know those are bedrooms. Don't worry about it. Just, did you have another one? A question? Go ahead.
I just have a question and along lines what you were saying, and this is just a clarification. A bioswale can't be in an easement? Does anyone know if a bioswale can be placed in an easement?
We have
We have the
staff here from the
city engineer here.
department. He's telling me no, it cannot.
No, you cannot do a bioswale in easement. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming. You wanna pop up for a second? Just say that. That'd be great.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ryan Cook, Senior Engineer with the city's Engineering Department. So the easement in question is a sanitary sewer easement from Central San. And so for these bioretention facilities, since they are stormwater treatment, Central San does not allow them within their easement. Because in order for them to come through and repair at a future date, it would destroy the stormwater treatment portion of it, which is required by the State Water Board. So, and they wouldn't be obligated to replace that. So they don't allow them within there. So, okay.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to public comment, and if you turn in a speaker card, you can talk for 2 minutes. So, let's go ahead, Mr. Secretary.
I have 2 cards now. If you haven't dropped a card off please, hold on. We'll have these 2 come up, and then if anybody else wishes to speak, just come on up and stand along this line here, and then drop your cards off at with Gerardo. So the first speaker would be Stephen Collins.
Hey, neighbors. Good to see you guys here. All right, and thank you for giving me a chance to speak here. I'm disappointed there isn't the same sheet number 3 or sheet number 2 that we saw in the plans that showed the buildings next to the plan here. But I hope you can see what building number 4, the plan in it, literally from the back deck of my 1-bedroom, it's the roof's going to be right there. And it's going to severely affect the rentability of this place. And we've been in business for 30 years there. We raised our son there. We rent to low-income people. And we're dog-friendly. On that 3.5-foot setback, I'd like you maybe to recommend that the engineers revisit the building code and think about the water conveyance between that building and that foundation of unit number 4 and our property. And how is that going to dry out? And in fact, won't the foundation of unit number 4 push water, literally push water back towards our property? So swale and water conveyance, I'd ask you to reconsider. That there can't be anything done, like there's a handcuff here on that bioretention sphere, that it couldn't perhaps be put behind the houses, the 2 lower houses. Can we bring up the site? That the roofing, I guess that's my time. Is that it?
Yep,
Okay. Please help.
I got your notes. Next speaker would be, is it Ben Collins?
Okay, I'm ready. Just finishing up on what he said, the unit number 4 is hanging directly over our 1-bedroom right there. There's a 2-bedroom that unit number 3 will be also looking directly over on. That's not going to be as bad. We have 3 units on that side up there that are all going to get pretty much shadowed by these 3 two-story buildings. With behind number 4, not only are they talking about having the foundation right there, the retaining wall they're talking about building is made out of wood that's pretty much in direct contact with the dirt below it. Those disintegrate almost within the first decade of being built. We wanted to bring the idea that a taller concrete retaining wall with a privacy fence on top of at least 7.5 feet made out of redwood, which would match our current fences. And the final thing was the removal of reducing guest parking. Well, I guess we can't rearrange the bioretention areas. We can't move the current bioretention areas. We're kind of losing options here for what's going to allow us to get more than 3.5 feet between pretty much our deck and the back wall of number 4. It's stressful, that one, because you can imagine why. And that's it.
Thanks. So who do we have next? So we're going to start to go ahead.
Yeah, if you'd like to come on up.
Thanks for letting me speak. I'm Debbie Tobalski, and I live at 1910 3rd Avenue. I'm not adjacent to this development. I'm one lot over.
Get into the microphone, please.
I'm Debbie Tobalski, and I live at 1910 3rd Avenue. I'm not right adjacent to the lot. I'm one spot over. And I've lived on
Can you
Third
speak into the microphone, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You can say I'm not very expert at this. I've lived on 3rd Avenue for 25 years. I've lived all over the country, and I really have come to appreciate how special and charming this community is. I've seen young people come in, moving in with their families and putting a lot of money into their homes to appreciate the property values in the area. And I'm kind of having trouble wrapping my head around what's going to be happening. I know that they're mostly single-family ranch-style homes in the neighborhood. We have beautiful old trees that have been there for years. And now all of a sudden, we're taking out 19 trees. We're going to leave 5. We're putting in magnolias. It doesn't look like the neighborhood. I appreciate that it's going to be new, but I'm concerned about that. And also the fact that there's problems with overflow parking as it is on 3rd Avenue. We have cars parking in front of our lots at different times of the year because there's no other place to park. And you're talking about putting in sidewalks, and I'm wondering how that's going to impact parking on the side streets. So whatever you can do, I would appreciate it. We just are concerned that this isn't going to quite fit in with a charming older community. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Tuggle. I live at 1941 3rd Avenue, right across the street from said project. And I want to reiterate what Debbie said about the parking. I see there's 6 guest parking slots and no driveways. So there's going to be overflow parking out onto the street. It's just going to happen because people these days don't use their garages as garages. And I just see congestion and, a lack of adequate parking. And also I would be interested in hearing what if any, financial impacts this is going to have on the neighboring homes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Schneider, and we live at 741 Thomas Lane, which is on the fence line of the property where units 4, 5, and 6 are being proposed. I think there's wiggle room. Haven has a great business plan. They find these lots, they build it, whatever, but it greatly impacts the neighborhood and changes it. When these two-story buildings get built, there's going to be direct sight into our backyard, and we use our backyard for entertaining. And these windows, you know, it's just not the same. But I think there's wiggle room in the site plan that if we could sit down with design review, planning, Haven, and ourselves and say, what about if we do this, this, and this? Particularly taking the heritage tree out by Unit 4. We would like that to stay in, and I believe Jim will talk to that. And I think that would help the Collins. That whole corner is bad up there. But the other thing is, I'm having trouble with this bonus density when the site calls for 5 units. And I respect that California law allows people to, builders to add under affordable housing property and then get all these waivers. But I'm also confused how properties are going to sell for upwards of $1 million, like $2 million, how that is affordable. I know there's a lot of rules about that, but I think it's a little too much, and I can appreciate that Haven doesn't want to affect their profitability, but we don't want to affect our lifestyle either. So I think there can be some adjustments to the site plan that we can maybe get a lot of people happier with. The Collins, you know, a 3.5-foot setback is ridiculous. Talking about parking, I think we need to go back to the drawing board, not to start all over, but as community partners, which I really believe that Haven is, I think we can maybe accomplish something without throwing the baby out with the water. So I know the clock hasn't started, but my time is probably up. I put my comments in the letter that got sent out. So this is really where I'm coming from, and I think that the setbacks, the privacy, and accepting the contractors from Haven at their price doesn't do it. Why should we? We spent over $150,000 this year on our property, solar, roof, painting, and we're going to do the same with landscaping. We shouldn't have to incur more costs just because this development wants to be 6 buildings and.
Hi, my name's Jim Durenis, and we're partners. I won't have much to add, but just want to say that I wish you had the site map. It was page 2, and I know Steve wanted that too. But it shows that they're making a gesture of leaving existing trees, and if you can find that, it starts with 111, 112, 117, 118, 121. And it implies they're doing a great favor to us. Those redwood trees are on 111 and 112 are on our property. 117 and 118 are on Edwards' property, and 121 is on Granger's property. So they're acting as though it states it down at the bottom, the existing trees to remain redwood trees. They're not their trees to discuss. And tree number 112 is about a 30-foot redwood tree. And that leads it to a concern is, in talking with landscape arborists, as they're grading the lot, the root system on the redwood trees could be severely damaged. And we have a contractor telling us the house in Lafayette they worked on where the tree fell over on the house 4 or 5 years later because they'd cut a severe root. So at the very least, some fencing has to be put around to protect all of our trees there that they're talking about. These are beautiful. The tree number 111 is about a 70-foot redwood tree. These are gorgeous trees that, And one last thing is tree number 110 has to stay. That black oak. that will solve the problem of correcting the setbacks, because that'll be a beautiful tree if it's trimmed and properly, and the arborist report said it was in good condition, so it needs some work, but so anyway, that's, and one last thing is on page 2 also shows that the common fence along 4, 5, and 6 to be removed. That's a common fence that we've spent big money on a number of years ago. We don't want that fence removed. I don't know how we stop that, but we have an equal share in it, so we need more information on it, but they can't just cut that down and replace it with something else nice. Thank you.
Thanks, council members. I'm Scott Lowry. I'm at 2614 Buenos Aires Court, which is right around the court. I've been living in my residence for 25 years. When we moved here 25 years ago, my daughters were 6 months old and 2 years old, and so I raised my family on Buenos Aires Court, and I raised them on 3rd Avenue over 25 years. And I've seen how the neighborhood has changed and how it's grown, and it's great that we're adding more housing, and we're trying to get more people a chance to live there. But I also want you to understand a little something about our neighborhood. Our neighborhood doesn't have sidewalks. We have lots of kids. I'm the old guy on the court now. We have 9 houses on Buenos Aires Court. 6 of those houses have changed ownership, and they all have young families there. And those young families all play in the court. They all are learning how to ride their bikes the same way that my kids were learning how to ride their bikes. And the main path that they take is down Buenos Aires Court, turn right on 3rd Avenue, and you head out to the open space, or you head out to Larkey Park, or in my daughter's case, she was an interpretive guide over at the Lindsay Museum for about 10 years. And so when she was a little kid, she'd walk around, head over to the Lindsay Museum. That area is going to become incredibly dense with this project. To the other people's point here, there isn't enough parking. We all use our garages for other purposes. Cars don't have a place to park. They're going to park out on 3rd Avenue. There are not sidewalks out there. If you walk out at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll see people running past. You'll see people with their dogs. If you go out there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll see kids running up and down and riding their bikes there. And if we choose to let the property density go forward and we don't put proper sidewalks and we don't put proper pedestrian stuff in, it's a safety hazard and something's going to happen.
Hello, I'm Dot Edwards. Terry and I live right next door to Jim and Cynthia. So we're the properties that will be very much affected by this development. One of our concerns, or I guess our concern primarily, is the trees. And we have redwood trees in our back, and of course, if there's grading and all of that that's going on, trees don't respect property lines. So our redwood trees that we have are going to be perhaps badly affected by this development. But other than that, we took out trees, we took trees out by permission in order to install solar. So we spent money getting trees out, money installing solar. We have an electric car. Now, if this development comes in, I don't know I couldn't quite understand what the landscaping plan is with trees coming in, trees coming out, how big the trees are going to be coming in. I just don't want trees coming in that are going to make our efforts to have solar invalidated, because we're going to end up with these huge trees right behind us, and their property directly abuts our property. So that's our concern. So thank you very much.
Mike Granger from Larky Lane. I had a couple of comments. One was I was concerned about the overall height of the building, the 2nd story. It seemed ambiguous in the planning documents, as it implies it's going to be 25 feet, but also mentions it's going to be up to 30 feet high. I'd like to see it restricted to the 25 feet height. The second thing is obviously there are lots of windows that overlook individuals' properties, we've mentioned it here, I can't see why there can't be an added stipulation of putting frosted glass opaque windows into things like bathrooms or hallways. I'd appreciate it can't be in bedrooms, but in areas where it'd be less intrusive for both the neighbors to be looking at each other. It also, particularly if in this plan, where there's only 3 foot, 6 foot between some of the lots anyway. The last question, we've talked about this grass area by lot 6. Why can't it be removed entirely? Why do we need it? We could argue we have a park within a quarter of a mile, within walking distance, that everybody's using. Why is it necessary to be there at the expense of a 3.5 feet side area for the Collins? So anyway, thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Nick Burke. I live in Walnut Creek, and I am Michael's neighbor on Larky Lane. I guess I want to say what they all said, so I won't take too much longer. My principal concerns are really, frankly, the density and the problems I think that will cause. Just down the street in Larky towards Geary, there was a development put in, I think in 2019. Two lots were combined into one, I think a developer. There were 2 half-acre lots, so 1 acre in total. They put 4 single-family homes on that lot. There seems to be adequate parking there. They have 2-car garages. There's parking sort of inside that Larky court. But invariably, there's overflow parking that kind of runs up to the Larky Market, which is on the corner of First and Larky. That corner from Larky to 3rd is on kind of my daily dog walk. And it can get a little congested with cars coming up 3rd. Unfortunately, people use Larky Lane kind of as a cut through to get to BART or 680 because there are no stop signs on Larky Lane, and so people can go too fast. So maybe that's another meeting. So my concern principally is, I think, just the density and the kind of issues that could cause around parking. Can't remember the gentleman's name, but yeah, there are no sidewalks really on that whole side of 3rd. Never has seemed to have been an issue for people walking, riding. It's a busy place, and I think too, Michael's comment about Larky Park being just around the corner is great. It's a great place to build community, to share kind of an open space together. It's always busy. It's just around the corner. I think we could do probably with a few less units on that lot, but appreciate all your time here. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mark Crange. I'm here on behalf of my 95-year-old mom who owns the property at 1920 3rd Avenue, which is adjacent to the project. I would echo that of the previous speaker. I think the density is too high for the neighborhood. And when you look at the parking issues that will inevitably flow out on the street, I own a couple homes, one of them in a Pittsburgh neighborhood, and I can tell you from when they're kind of following the same building plan, these cars do end up all over the neighborhood because although this is going to have an HOA, as I understand it, which may alleviate some of that, but I still think that you're going to have rental issues in there, single bedroom rentals, and along with it will come extra cars. And the density of the project doesn't fit the neighborhood. And I think that it will generally, I mean, it's good to have additional housing units, but cramming 6 houses onto 0.7, whatever it was, of an acre is just too high. It's like apartment buildings at this point in the middle of single-family dwelling neighborhood. So I would ask that the density level be reviewed. I also worry about the fire access going down a non-standard width road which basically is a T or a hammerhead, what they call, just for fire engines to maneuver in that tight space at the end. And you use multi-stories, so you're not going to go in with an engine that doesn't have a ladder
You know, you're going to need to have some support that way. You need to review that. I think that's under the California 15.20 fire provisioning. So I would just ask a review on the density. If you can reduce it somehow, I'd appreciate it. And thanks so much. Okay.
My name is John Fuller. I actually live in Concord, but I own a home on Keith Court, which is directly across 3rd Street from this development, where we have family living. One of the concerns I have is, and I'm not that familiar with this project in terms of the details of it, and one of the things you had mentioned earlier is there's no surrounding presentation of anything that abut this on any of these maps, at least almost none of them. But what I am concerned about, or I would be concerned if I was a next door neighbor, is the fact that I'm assuming they're changing the grade on this property because they have to start to make everything drain toward that clean water device, the detention facility, whatever you want to call it. And one of the other commenters had mentioned that they're going to be putting retaining walls on the property line. And I would like to see how they're going to be changing the grade at the property line, because this entire area is sloped from Larkey down 3rd Street. It's all downhill. And so if they raise the site and put in a retaining wall, there's an issue of what's going to happen to the surface drainage that is, you know, when it rains and it just sheets off of the property. It used to be able to go from one property to the other. If they put in a retaining wall, now there's nowhere for that water on the uphill property to go. It has to go somewhere, or it'll pond against that retaining wall, one or the other. Or it will concentrate it and put it out on some other corner of the property. So I think that this development, and when you present this stuff in the future, you need to be showing how the grade is going to change on the property line between one property and the adjacent property if they're going to be putting in retaining walls that will significantly raise the elevation of adjacent property and potentially block drainage from the upstream property. And also that if they raise it, that in turn makes the house that's 2 stories even that much taller, looming over the property next door.
That it? Any other comment cards? All right. So then we'll move on to commissioner comments. We're closing the public comment and moving on to commissioner comments. So who wants to start?
I can start. The first was something I sort of saw looking at the map after this conversation came up about the setbacks. And can we have, I guess, the landscape plan brought up again? My question has to do with the possibility of moving the bioswale to lot where house number 3 is. And if you look at that map, that lot is slightly larger, correct? So if you were to draw a line, say, from where the crook in that fence is on the front facing and go straight back to make that side yard the same as the adjacent side yards, could you not fit the bioretention area in that space there and then move those houses down and get a bigger setback where house number 4 is? I guess that's not a comment. I guess that's a question. But
We'll take the comments and we'll have a discussion with the developer at a later date.
okay. It just seems to me that that's a big enough lot to make some room on it. The next is talking about the trees. So I think that I understand the theme, wanting to have a theme. But I think that everyone in this room, and myself included, feels that the native trees and the loss of those native trees is significant, and that maybe we need to take a step back and put in native trees where instead of higher water non-native trees. So there could be live oaks, native sycamores, chalopsis, which is a really beautiful native tree that does well in drier climates and has pretty flowers. It's going to be a little bit more decorative, like a magnolia. Redbud also, which is native to this region and is more decorative, or even buckeyes. So there are a lot of choices that could be used, and I would strongly recommend that those trees that go in are native trees. I also think that if the shrubs themselves, the species that are in the bioretention area, I think is a really solid palette. It's highly native centered. I think that if the palette of the larger collection of plants could have at least like 50% native species, that would also be a nice complement to the design. And I also have there is a sidewalk going in, correct? Yes, there is, because there was question about that, but then I thought I heard that there was. And I think that's the extent to my comments.
So, my comments, that was a great comment about moving that bioswale and possibly moving 4, 5, and 6 down. And that gives us potential room to save that black walnut. I'm just saying. So I would like for that to be considered. I would also like the developer to consider the elevation on the left side of the house that faces not only that back corner on number 4, but also 3rd Avenue on in house lot number 1, because it's the least attractive elevation in your palette, and I would like for you to do something with it to make it more palatable. Then my one comment is the developer mentioned how much the affordable housing component is costing him in order to get that density bonus. So I would ask why they need the density bonus if it's costing them money, in which case maybe they can decrease it to 5 units instead of 6. I would just like for that to be considered. I agree with the height restriction in view of the surrounding neighborhood. I think 25 feet is, as you had originally discussed it, is probably enough. So I would like for that to be considered. And then you talked about that. I think that's it.
I mean, I think I would echo pretty much what everybody said. I know I've been through a few of these. I'm the one person who's been on this. These are new members, so I've seen these projects come in, and I know there's nothing that we can do about the density. I mean, it is worth asking the question if the affordable unit is not viable, then take it out and get more space around it. But I assume it does affect the viability. So I'm gonna not say that. I'd say I like the revised color palette. I'd say, I think the landscape architect mentioned that they could recover 1 tree if possible. I'd say make it possible. I also heard comments about the wood retaining wall adjacent to the high side of the property. I really think that should be a concrete wall. That would be my recommendation. I do question the 25 feet versus 30 feet. I think is the highest elevation planned to be 25 feet?
Well, let me explain how our roof heights work. For single-family or residential projects that have roofs where 70 or 75% of the roof area has a 3 and 12 pitch or greater, the total roof height at ridge line can be up to 29 feet, and that is consistent with a 25-foot height limit, and that's throughout the city.
Okay.
But that's at the ridge line.
Okay, so nothing to say there. I like the comment about frosted glass at bathroom windows. That helps. I would recommend that. And definitely echoing the response about the native trees. Architect comment, you know, let's make sure that the trim and the bands are all minimum of 2x material so you get a nice shadow. Those are my comments. So I guess the way this is going to go, Chip, is we're not going to make any motion. We're just going to.
Well, what I'd like to do is just, I think I've captured most of the issues that you discussed. And then if I haven't, remind me, and then we can just kind of reach consensus. We need, you know, two hands to say that this is a viable issue to pursue.
Okay.
Okay? So the first one was take a look at moving the bioswales to Lot 3, which would shift, in turn, shift the house on Lot 4 further down, increasing the side setback, and also potentially preserving the walnut tree. Did I get that? Do we have consensus on that? Yeah. Okay, and then use native trees instead of magnolias and what of the other tree that's called out?
Yeah, water gum.
Yeah, so, and I would suggest that the suggestion would be to use native trees that are listed on our highly protected list. Phil?
Yes.
Okay. Study fenestration on the elevation on the side of Lot 4 for privacy issues to the adjacent neighbors. Yeah?
Yeah.
Also, take a look at replacing the wood retaining wall with a concrete retaining wall. I don't know how high that wall is, but we could, is that a consensus item? With the fence on top? Yep. Okay, and provide some trim detail. Make sure that the trim was at least, did you say 2x4? Yep. Okay, have I missed?
Yes.
Yes.
So Lot 1 and Lot 4, I requested that side elevation that faces the neighbors and faces the street have some attention to detail. It's very plain and it looks, so as I would ask that they take a look at that elevation and.
Which elevation? Or
The left, so the elevation on, the left elevation on Lot 1 and the left elevation on Lot 4.
Good comment. Yeah.
It's a plain wall.
So like,
It's ugly.
So like a change of color, change of material.
Yes. So around
yeah.
the front, it's a different color on the top.
Right.
Continue that around the side or something.
Break
all
it
right,
up. Yeah.
spice it up.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, can I ask a question on this? Is again about that easement. So like, is unit 6, is that right up against the easement?
You talking about this?
Yeah.
This is the bioretention area right here.
Okay.
Where's the easement boundary?
Where is the easement?
20 feet off property line.
Oh, so it's off property line. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea to maybe try to move the bioswale. I mean, I think that if that could be done, that, and then that, I mean, so the bigger comment could that be moved so that building 4, 5, and 6 could move down the page, maybe save a tree, get a little more setback. That'd be a great improvement. I mean, nothing is cast in stone here, so you're going to work with staff, and if it can happen, it can happen. If not, it's not. It's just.
I'm saying the grade issue is why it was there. A lot of slope in that place. We'd have to raise this whole lot to bring it back. Build retaining walls around, make a giant pool to slope it back. It's just not feasible. That's why we did that. Believe me, that easement killed us too. We would love to shift everything.
Just get rid of the easement. It's not happening. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good, thanks. All right, so I think we're good then, right? Any other comments?
Well, there was also some issues about the HOA, maybe a condition that would require maybe parking of at least one car in the garage, or, and what else was that? What else did I hear?
The
Requirement
trash.
of trash.
Trash, yeah,
The trash has to be kept inside the garage, and that they have to park in the
Okay,
garage.
so we can discuss that. Okay, cool. There was one other item, and it was in regards to density bonus and the extra unit, and that density bonus unit was costing them, so we'll get an explanation on that and figure that out.
Okay.
Are we all?
Yeah, I mean, I had added more native species in the mix, but I think that would be good.
Okay, plant pellet as well.
Plant palette.
We can add that.
Okay, so I think we're done with that agenda item then, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's move on to commission's considerations. So do we have any commission considerations, Chip?
We do not.
Okay. Let's move on to commission member and staff reports and announcements. Does anybody have a staff report or announcement?
Staff does not.
No.
No.
Excellent. So then I think we can adjourn. Thank you.
Adjourn.